welcome to this month's interview. I am super excited to be able to spend some time with Ramona Zabriskie. As you all know, you're reading her book this month, which is called Wife for Life, The Power to Succeed in Marriage. And I just would like to introduce her to you before we get going into the questions. So Ramona is a sought-after mentor, teacher, leader, and friend to women who want to succeed in marriage. These women include those who have given up hope, who are at the end of their rope, as well as women who have experienced divorce or who are remarried. She also helps women who have never married and want to prepare for that day, which is fantastic. I think we all need a class 101 before we get married. She also helps women who want to create a better, more stable relationship. They might have a great relationship, but they want to have an increased, better relationship, which is something a lot of my ladies are working on, and so this is perfect. Ramona's book, which is critically acclaimed, multi-award-winning book, Wife for Life, The Power to Succeed in Marriage. She and her team, Wife for Life, have all kinds of resources, including video shows, podcasts, Ramona's blog, and expert contributions to national and international media such as Huffington, Dr. Laura, Dr. Oz, and Wellness.com. So Ramona has a premium transformational experience platform called Wife for Life University, and it is a one-of-a-kind effective virtual school for women. And her website, which I will also give more information at the end, is ramonazabriskie.com. And we'll have Ramona tell us a little bit more about that as we get going on your Wife for Life University. So thank you, Ramona. Thank you so much for being with me today and being willing to share with these ladies your powerful knowledge that you share with women. It sounds like daily. And I appreciate that so much. And I know these ladies do too. We need women out there like you that are fighting for marriage, that are fighting.
Yes. There needs to be more of us. So, frankly, that's what Wife for Life is really about. Is we don't advertise it anywhere, but what we're really doing is creating our own little army up there who then spill all this good stuff to all their friends, the women they love. Mm-hmm. And thus it grows. We have students now from 50 plus different countries.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Every state in the United States, every province in Canada, and every state in Australia.
Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. How long have you been doing Wife for Life University?
Wife for Life University is, let's see, how old are we now? I bet we're about 4 years old. Yeah, about 4 years, maybe going on 5.
Oh, that is so great. That is so great. Changing one marriage at a time.
It's fun. I remember when the book was still in the manuscript stage, and I was meeting with my agent in New York, and she had brought a friend along, and we were describing what the book was going to be about. And the friend said, well, and I can't tell you how many people have said this to me. She said, if you can save even one marriage, it'll be worth it. And the agent leaned across the table and said, it better be more than one marriage to be worth it. Because it was a lot of work, but it has been well worth it. And I've said a million times over to a student or family member, or someone dear to me, I'll say, I wrote that book just for you. If no one else, to see you happy and progressing is worth everything. So.
I bet you have got like the most amazing stories of transformations, and I can only imagine how that makes you feel as a woman in this calling in life that you've obviously been called to, how rewarding it is.
Yeah, I have felt compelled, as do you, and to do something, to help. And that all came about, as I explain in the book, through multiple experiences that just seemed to add up until the day that I felt that lightning bolt. You will spend the rest of your life gathering information and sharing it with women who really want to succeed in marriage. So yeah, that's my job. That's my calling.
I'm certainly grateful. I'm grateful for one of the ladies in our group that led me to your information, and I was like, oh, I have to read this book. I have to get to know this woman because it so went in line with what I have been working with these ladies. And so I just love that there's more women out there, more people out there that are, like I said, fighting for marriage, because so often it's so quick to, well, it's not working, we must end it. When we really just don't have the knowledge of how men and women work.
Right. That has everything to do with it. It has a lot to do with it, more than we normally give credit for. We attribute a lot of our irritation and annoyances and so forth to personality or background or history, or we'll just say he plain is this way or that way. My husband's insensitive or blah, 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 blah. And so that's a real big light bulb moment for my readers and my students when they start to realize, all these irritations, annoyances, or things that have pushed them to the brink of, despair. And like you say, the thoughts of even giving up or turning back, turning around, whatever. And then they learn that their husband is very much in line with most of the men in the world. And that makes all the difference. That's one of the light bulb moments that I love watching, those paradigm shifts.
Yes, I love that as well. And you've experienced that on your own. And I think that's what makes you such a powerful teacher. And I would love if you would take us back to those beginning years of your marriage that you share in the book. That, and that's one of the things I think that first connected me to you, is that you did experience it. You experienced very real life, that you got married and things didn't go the way, we thought it would go. So would you mind sharing a little bit of that journey you had at the beginning of your marriage? Because I think that will really resonate with these ladies.
Well, of course, the story is in the book. Mm-hmm. So I hope that you'll get familiar with it that way. So do not skip the preface.
No, I do agree with that. No,
because that's where that story is in the preface. And but basically, we married very young, and by the world standards, right? And but we were crazy in love, truly. And I do think that has had a lot to do with it to this day. I'm still just really crazy about him. But because I was so crazy about him, it was a huge disappointment, disillusionment to the umpteenth in my mind, in my young mind, when he wasn't meeting my expectations. It wasn't turning out the way that I had expected it to. But of course, it went far beyond that, even because he came from a really different background totally than me, very different. He'd seen and done a lot that was not good, basically. And so I had been warned by all the adults in my life that, oh, this guy, he's trouble with a capital T. What are you thinking? I'm like, I'm crazy about him, And so we just threw caution to the wind, if you will. But of course, they were right. He was very immature. He had made a lot of poor choices in the past. He never really had finished anything, He was self-centered. He was everything, that I had been warned about. And that a lot of us, when we marry, are scared that, do I really know this person, And so all those realities started showing their real faces. And it became more and more apparent to me that I'd made a really stupid mistake. So finally, we both agreed that it was time to end this before we had babies. And so we're a couple years now. We're a couple years into the marriage, and we did separate. So we were separated for 6 months, but I had a real compelling experience that you're going to have to read in the book, that affected my girlish mind at the time and made me just romantic enough to think, maybe I should do this again. Maybe I should try. Maybe I owe another another around here. And that's what he wanted. So we did go back and never looked back after that. We were 4 days away from divorce court when we made that decision, though.
Wow.
So I knew at that point that I was smart enough. I was a mature girl. I was very intelligent, but I was a lot less mature than I thought I was at the time. I would have known more than I knew, and I might not have let myself go that far down what I call Dream Breaker Road. And we learn all about that in Wife for Life. It's a very predictable demise to any relationship, and it starts in a woman's heart. It starts in your heart and how you perceive your man, and it deteriorates in a very predictable pattern. And it goes to different speeds for everyone. Sometimes it can take decades, like a slow moving glacier.
Yeah.
But little by little it deforms the landscape. And these are the marriages that we often hear about that are middle-aged marriages, where you have a couple who's been married for 30 plus years or something, and then, did you hear that so-and-so are divorced? And you're like, what?
Yeah, totally shocked.
What happened? And no one could really tell you what happened. There was not one incident that you could pinpoint. It was that glacier. And it's Dream Breaker Road. And there's an inevitable end at Dream Breaker Road. It's a big, fat, dead end sign. Yeah. And there's nothing but a pile of, wish I had or could have beens at the end of that road. Yeah. So we don't want, that's what Wife for Life is all about. It's to keep you from going that far down the road, where I'll tell you what the last stage is. If you're thinking there's a better life and man for me, you're at the end of Dream Breaker Road. And that's where I was, right?
Yeah.
So, but I work with women all the time. You said every day, and that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
Who are very close to the end of Dream Breaker Road, some who are. And we literally turn them around, and they slowly make their way back the other direction. I was very early in this process. I mean, the book was so new, published, and I spoke somewhere, and a woman came to me with, huge tear-stained, it was so sad. It makes me sad just thinking about it. And she threw her arms around me and said, help me. My husband's filing for divorce on Tuesday.
Oh.
And this was Saturday. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this challenge on, and we did. And to this day, they're totally amazing, happy couple to the extreme. In fact, they went on a recent little getaway, because of course I keep in contact with her, even though this was several years ago. And they went on some little getaway recently, and she wrote me to tell me that the desk clerk asked if they wanted the honeymoon suite, because she was sure they were honeymooners, by the way. They were acting. So that's how it's possible to go from one end of Dream Breaker Road to there is no end to the other direction. The other direction we call the road to forever. So.
Oh, I love that. And that has to be so, because just the work I know I've worked on and making little notes, I love that road to forever. Just a little bit of that I have experienced, I can only imagine with you being in this field much longer than just the reward, because I know how much work it entails. I know how many hours you have probably spent, endless hours, gathering the most recent and the most applicable information that you can find to create your university. And then to have it pay off and have these success stories has to be so rewarding. And I want to, give these ladies hope. Ladies, it's possible. It's possible to be at the end of Dream Breaker Road and turn it around.
Right. But it is a challenge, and it was a challenge for me in originating, and as you referred to, doing all the research and so forth, because so much of what's out there is old-fashioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Frankly. Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to be really blunt with you. There's a lot of old-fashioned stuff out there. And there's a lot of stuff that talks only to couples, most everything. And so that's what I found was missing. So I'm like, okay, no, we need a whole new way of approaching this, a paradigm that really gives the modern woman the credit and the power, the credit she deserves and demands, and ownership, and really, I don't want to say empowers her, but I guess that's really what we do, you know, wakes her up to the power that she really has in her life and in her relationship with a man, especially with her husband. And so, yeah, we call it a modern or approach to modern marriage, a highly effective approach to modern marriage.
Yeah,
what we're talking about is partnership.
Yes.
A powerful, equal partnership. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's the joy of what I do, is take women down that path and empower them to empower each other, like we were talking about earlier. So
yeah, I love that. Thank you. I love that. And it's so true. It is a partnership. And I like how you focus on teaching the women and getting them to understand their part of it, because we really don't have control over him.
No.
Zero. If we sit around and wait for him to change, we might be waiting a really long time.
Yeah, and that's what every human being has to figure out in this life.
Yeah.
Right? It's part of our maturation process to let go of those fantasies or illusions, because it only ruins relationships when you think you can control another human being in your desperation to control, which really is all about connecting. Really, it's not so much, I mean, there are people with mental illnesses that have a, obsession with controlling. Most of us aren't that way, really, so much as we want to connect. And we're just so desperate to connect that we're become demanding. And connect with me, connect with me, connect with me. And we go about it all wrong. Yeah. And there are other ways of inviting your husband to connect with you in a way that he relates to and understands and desires then. And so we've managed to pull him toward us instead of pushing him away.
So powerful. So powerful. I'm curious, you mentioned in your book that you never really had mentors in your early years. Once you decided to go back, you didn't really have mentors, but somewhere, somehow in you, there was some instinct in you that gave you that ambition to, I'm going to give this a try, and then to get to where you're at now. Was there any foretelling thing in your life that took place that helped you push through the hard times, figure it out on your own, where obviously you didn't have somebody holding your hand saying, this is how you do it? Right. So how did you do it?
Well, that's a really good question. I could not have written the book if I weren't an avid journal keeper. All right. So I literally have 3-inch binders full of my journal writings for the whole 40 years of my marriage. Wow. So I was able to go back so a big chunk of my research were the 150 books and 50 academic studies I tore apart, right? But another huge part of it was just my own journals and tracing my own journey. The one you're referring to is, how did you do that? How did you do that? And so I have to, in saying that I didn't have mentors, what I really mean is I had no teachers. There's no one overtly teaching me these principles unless I read a book. So I did, like a lot of us, every so often, I'd pick up a book about marriage and I'd read it and I'd think about it and I'd gain something from it. But none of them gave me a real comprehensive philosophy or plan. It was more, do this for your husband or try that, or, it was that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so Wife Life is very different from that in that it's very comprehensive. The book is packed. And it takes marriage from every angle, and to give you a real comprehensive philosophy. So you have a philosophical backdrop, a reason for marriage that will inspire your marriage. I didn't really have that. So what I did is I observed. And I strongly recommend this to all my students, that you observe other women. I mean, you purposefully hang out with other women. Now, you can observe less than effective behavior and file it away. Like, whoa, how would I feel if I were that man and my wife just talked to me like that? File it away. You see it in your friends. You see it in family members. But then if you can hang around with really good, positive people. So I purposefully did that. I developed friends who are much older than I was. And I would hang out and I would watch them work in their home with their children, with their husband. I'd create reasons for us to, can I come over and do this for you or whatever? And I would try to learn by observation. I was very intentional about it. Then I recorded what I learned and I recorded my mistakes. So my journals are full of horrible things that I did through the years to my husband, and afterwards I'd just be like, oh my word, what have I done? And so when I teach about requesting forgiveness and extending forgiveness in the book, that's just one chapter. That's only part of one chapter.
Yeah.
The book has so much in it, that's all we have time for. But I know what I'm talking about because, I'm pretty expert at requesting forgiveness. And I pulled chunks out of my journals for the book left and right of literal notes that I wrote to my husband that I still have kept and have record of. So that's how I learn. I think that's how anybody learns anything. And I do believe that becoming a wife for life is a skill set.
I think you are so correct.
And we don't have anyone teaching the skill set. Yeah. And so why else are we having just this epidemic of young women divorced or in second marriages before they're 30? And it is an epidemic.
It is.
Before they're 30. No one's taught them the right paradigm, and the skill set. They don't have the vision. They certainly don't have the confidence in themselves or their husband, or actually in the institution of marriage itself. A lot of us are very afraid of it and, go into it with like, okay, I'll give this a try. So that's all of that combined, I think, leaves women very, very vulnerable. And when I close my eyes at night, I have to ward off, literally, the faces of women and children, tears. They're just with me all the time, haunting me. And it's what wakes me get up the next day. And I've never told that to anyone before, Trina. It gets me up the next day and like I'm going back at it because there's somebody crying out there still and unnecessarily. So I learned, and I'm happy to help others learn, and I teach others how to teach others to learn the skill set that they need, and it's been fabulously effective.
Yeah, I love the word that you said. You were intentional. And I think that's something that we're missing a lot of times. We expect, we fell in love, we've gotten married, it should just naturally unfold itself. And it doesn't. We have to be so intentional on how we react, what we're willing to learn and apply in all of our relationships, not just with our husband, but like if you're going to be a PTA president, you're going to go learn how to do it, right? You're going to be taught.
Thank you. We go to college. What? We get a degree to learn any profession, and yet we just think this primary relationship that all the other professions and pursuits and relationships in our life is founded on
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Because you can't really be happy with other people. You can't really be happy in your work or anything if you are unhappy in your marriage. It just undermines or supports everything else. And we have no training in it at all.
Yes.
Like you say, my niece just posted something on Facebook today. I didn't know she was in a relationship, but she made her announcement today. She's in a relationship. So she and this guy, I don't know anything about him yet. And here's the picture of him. And she says, this is what happens when you find a perfect match without even trying. And I thought, oh, Mama Mia, how fast can I get her into Wife for Life University?
Oh, yes. You can see that road right in front of her, can't you? So clearly.
I'm telling you, this book is one of the most popular bridal shower gifts in the world. And it is also subsequently one of the dustiest bridal shower gifts. Because brides go, and put it on the shelf.
Yes.
And then they come back for it in about 18 months. And then they pick it up desperate after about 7 years. Right? So we would all like to think it's the way you described.
Yes.
But it's not.
It's not. And I wish there was a way. Have you had success with getting a hold of like either women that are getting married or women that are just barely married, just still newlyweds, and had success with that?